Hi again then guys, and welcome to, of course, another speed tune for Forza Horizon 4, this time for an old school muscle car, and of course one which has a very special place for me because one of the first really significant tunes that I did for the whole Forza series was back in Forza 4, where this car debuted, if I recall correctly, and it was by far the quickest accelerating car we'd ever had in Forza. I got it down to 0 to 60 in 1.074 seconds. 1 second to 60 is insane, especially given the amount of power that it had back then. Then of course in later games we had the huge 1500 horsepower V12 engine swap, but funnily enough it didn't necessarily get any quicker than it already was. Now however, in Horizon 4 a lot of the cars accelerate much more rapidly than they did in any of the previous games. Stuff like the Donkervort, the Speed 12, the Dart, the Dodge Demon as well. And that's one of the main reasons why when I did my tune, very early on after the game's release for the TVR Speed 12, I said that it was the fastest accelerating car in the history of the series, because at that time, as far as I knew, that was true. I didn't realise how many cars were also quicker than they used to be, and this is one of them. Now, as far as the tuning goes, I'd recommend the Viper engine swap. You can get, of course, a huge amount of power out of that. I would be interested to see what it could do with that 1500 horsepower engine, but unfortunately it's not an option. And as you can see, it's quick, because as I said before, it was 1 second to 60 and it was 2.9 to 100 back in Forza 4. And I think the top speed was like 235 miles per hour. Now, you compare that, it's not even close. 0.776 to 60, 2.2 seconds to 100, 267 flat out, and that's not even with 1500 horsepower, so pretty crazy. As far as the upgrades themselves, fairly obviously I have fitted it with drag tyres to get that kind of acceleration. If you want improved handling but sacrifice a little bit of acceleration, then you could go to racing tyres instead. That'll also make the car's PI level higher. But of course that's down to you, what you need. If you want to get this tune straight from my storefront, you can use the keywords in the description or just add my gamer tag and you'll be able to find it pretty easily. Now as far as the gearbox, I'd recommend a final drive of 2.75, then for the individual gears, they're very familiar to anyone who's used my tunes before: 2.9, 1.99, 1.5, 1.18, 0.95 and 0.77. In the past of the franchise, you used to have to get a little bit more technical and more specific and more experimental than that, but it kind of takes care of itself now. As far as the alignment, it is all-wheel drive, so you don't need any camber as far as I'm concerned. It's a straight-line machine anyway, let's be honest. Neutral toe also, I've gone for 4 degrees of caster. Of course you could go higher or lower. Anti-roll on 25 and 20. Springs on 115 for the front, 105 on the back with the lowest ride height, and it's still naturally a lot higher at the back anyway. The dampers are on 12, 11 and then 5 respectively for the bump stiffness. Aero, of course, doesn't apply, so don't fit either the front or rear racing wing. You just don't need it. And as far as the diff, 100% is what I've gone for acceleration. You could raise the deceleration as well to maybe loosen up the steering a bit if you want to. And then as far as the balance, I've gone for, as you can see, 75% bias toward the rear, and that's kind of the sweet spot for this car. You could take it down to 70 if you want a bit more of a typical all-wheel drive launch, but 75 certainly seems to be a good area for this vehicle. So as I said, you could copy this tune or you could get it from my storefront, but all that remains is obviously to see exactly how quick this monster can go. Now, as you'll see from this race, the handling on this car is suspect, let's just say, even with all-wheel drive, because for one thing, of course, it's a muscle car anyway, not exactly designed to be taking corners at 260 miles per hour. They have enough trouble at taking corners at 100 miles per hour, but also with drag tyres, it's purely a drag car. Of course, it goes without saying. The reason why we took it here is just to show you the crazy acceleration and also, of course, the kind of top-end speed that you can get out of it. So if you do decide to use this tune, which can beat most people even with an all-wheel drive gearbox, or all-wheel drive, what am I talking about, even with an automatic gearbox I should say, if you use manual or even use clutch, you will be even quicker. So I hope you have a ton of fun with it, and of course you can stick around here on the channel to see plenty more tunes like this, and click here on screen to see all the tunes I've already done. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.